too.
Yes.
Woohoo.
All
All right.
right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could be here today. Kara asked me if I would kind of fill in, and I guess Melissa does such a great job at this because she's usually the person on the other side of this. But since she's presenting this week, we need another person to like hang out and ask questions and bounce ideas off of. And so Melissa is going to be doing her solo teaching this week, and it is going to be on the 3 ways to about creativity and inspiration, right, Melissa?
That is correct. That is 100%
Yes.
correct.
Okay, so we're just going to jump right in. I'm glad everybody could make it today, and for however long you can make it. I'm so glad that you can be here. And then, of course, the replays come on like in an hour. Like they're so fast. Like I'm like, thank whoever's in charge of that. Thank you. Is that Amber? Is whoever's in charge?
So. She's very efficient.
Click, click, click. She's already got it down. I'm glad I'm not in charge of that job.
Me too.
Okay. Y'all don't want to ask me to do that job. All right. So tell us about inspiration, Melissa.
Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and warn all of y'all that Kelda and I know each other and have known each other for a couple of years, and we both like words. And so while I have prepped today and have all sorts of things ready for you, there's no telling where this conversation is going to go. So just prepare yourselves for that. Okay, so inspiration. So I think a lot of times when we talk about inspiration, we think of things like I created a vision board on Pinterest, or I went to Hobby Lobby and I saw all these beautiful things and they inspired me to go home and, paint or write or knit. And because we have those kinds of ideas about inspiration, we get ourselves locked up when we do not feel that way. But inspiration, like if you look at it historically, which I'm not going to do that to you and do all the like, what are the definitions? And, y'all can look that up on your own if you want to. But inspiration really is 2 things coming together and working. It's mental stimulation and this internal heart thing that happens when your brain gets stimulated. So, for example, let's say like today, I was sitting on my porch and I was looking out and the trees are changing color and the flowers are blooming. It was so beautiful. And my brain was taking in the colors and thinking about fall. And what happened in my heart is I was motivated to capture that. So I got up and took pictures of it. So inspiration is that mental stimulation that then creates this heart motivation to do something about it. But we get tripped up because we think inspiration is this like magical fairy dust that gets waved over our writing life where I have ideas and I'm going to write them and they're going to be beautiful and magical. And that's actually just not what happens at all. At all.
I'm laughing because I want fairy dust. I want there to be a real muse that just comes and sits with me. And yes, I believe the Holy Spirit is present with me when I'm writing, but I would love a muse, like, in the ancient.
What? I got it. No, okay. It's not me. Carry on.
Okay. I would love all of that, but seeing like you're talking about the colors and all this, and I'm like going, okay, so Space has a purple shirt on, and Rosemary has a purple vesty scarfy thing on, and Kathy has her purple water bottle. I'm like going, purple girls commit. Like I'm totally seeing inspiration just because there were 3 people with colors. Christina's is like this reddish purpley color too, but I'm like, oh, you have a purple shirt on. See, thank you. So see, purple girls commit. So I am all comfortable, and I'm not in purple, and now I'm sad because I should have had a purple shirt on too, because then I could have been in the club. But those are the things, like you're visually stimulated, you visually see things, or and to me, that's so beautiful that it just, like, it does go straight to your heart in some capacity, but sometimes you're not ready to process it out yet.
You're not.
And you're just taking it all in. Just take it in, document it with a picture, document it with a note.
Yeah.
Just let it kind of be stirring.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't feel inspired, right? Feelings lie to us. We know that we have them, but we don't feel inspired, or mentally we're tired. And so we're not stimulated in our mind. And so we feel like somehow we're lacking inspiration or the creativity is gone. But we're going to get to that in a minute. But where I'm going with all of that is, I think as believers, the piece that we miss is that we have the Holy Spirit living inside of us, right? God is infinitely creative. He never dries up on ideas. And since we're made in his image, we are made creative. I had somebody ask me, one of my coaching clients the other day, she was like, can I lose my creativity? I'm afraid that if I don't, finish this book or I don't finish this project, am I going to lose my creativity? And I could tell her with 100% confidence, no, I do not believe that as born, people made in God's image, that we can lose our creativity. We are always going to be creative. How it works itself out in our lives may change, but we have the creator of all the universe living inside of us through the Holy Spirit. And again, I'm not going to like overwhelm y'all with, definitions and things like that. However, one definition of inspiration is the indrawing of breath. Like the medical field will say, they'll use inspiration as in like taking in of a breath. So we can always be breathing in the Holy Spirit. We can be breathing in God's word. We can be living in his presence. And so whether I feel mentally stimulated, whether I feel motivated to create anything, by my very nature, made in the image of God, we are creative. And so that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today and at my solo teaching is, okay, so how do we tap into that? And what does it look like when I've lost this creative inspiration in this area? Have I lost it forever? Or what do I do to keep it? How do I stir it back up again?
Right. So give us some examples about drying up.
Yeah. So I'm going to have Hilda give us an example in a minute. I already asked her about this. She's going to give us an example. But I have had multiple times where my creativity has dried up. Often for me, I am hot or cold. So if I get myself on a project, I am all about that project and I will work my fingers to the bone to finish it. I will pour everything I have into it. So I think it was maybe a year ago, I was creating an online course. I poured everything into that, creating the videos and the graphics and the downloads and all the things. So much fun. I felt so on and creatively inspired, hit publish on that thing. People are buying it. And I deflated like a balloon. I had no words left. I couldn't think of anything to write. I couldn't think of anything to create. I had nothing to post. I was like, oh dear, that's it. I'm done. I've used it all up. I have no more ideas. That was the peak of my existence, and I might as well quit now. But what was interesting is that wasn't the case. That was near the holidays, and I was tired. But what I did was I took all of that creative energy and I poured it into my house. And I decorated for fall and I decorated for Christmas. And I thought about what fun things could I buy my kids for Christmas this year and what fun things could we cook together. And so I'm going to talk about this more later too, but I don't believe we ever lose our creative inspiration. We might just use it up for a particular project. And what I ended up doing is rerouting that into something else. And I took a break from words and I took a break from online creating and did this other thing and found that I did have creative energy for picking cute pillows for my couch for fall. Like I could do that. So that was one example. Another example I have is, and I've given this example before, but I still think it's a good one, is I had scrapped my old website. I had poured all this energy into creating a new website. It was beautiful, so excited. I'm going to schedule time to write on this website, and I had no words. Beautiful website and no words. And I kept going, okay, this must be writer's block, or I've lost my creative inspiration, or maybe I'm actually not a writer and this is a terrible idea to create a website. So I kept leaning into that, talking to writer friends and praying. And what I finally realized was I didn't want to write the words that I had been writing on my old website. That was not the message I wanted to write anymore. And so I sat down and set a 10-minute timer and said, okay, if I write about this topic instead, do I have any idea? And y'all, I filled the front and back of a sheet of paper in less than 10 minutes. And I realized it wasn't that I lacked creative inspiration or that I had writer's block. I was trying to shoehorn myself into something that no longer fit. And so I had to pivot just a little bit. It wasn't even that major of a change, but I had to pivot just a tiny little bit and give myself permission to write on this new topic. And all of a sudden, the mental stimulation and the heart motivation, both things were there, and I was ready to go. So those are a couple examples, but I know Kelda's got one because I was with her when this was happening. But give us a brief, like when, so Kelda's a fiction writer. She was trying to write on her character Mizir, and he was not talking to her, and she could not move forward on that book and was completely blocked. So what happened, Kelda?
So what was happening was I was thinking that I was capable of writing 2 books at the same time. Just stop it. Just stop it, Kelda. Like, you're delusional. So I have a nonfiction homeschool book that's like all the things. And then I have Mazir, who's not talking to me. So in the past, because I'm just gonna take a quick little side. In the past, when characters weren't talking to me, my friend would say, well, how's it going? And I was like, well, they're just not talking. And they might have been about teenagers in one book. And so she was like, well, buy them a pizza and see what happens. Like giving me ideas for the story. Like, what happens at home when you want your kids to talk to you? You feed them, right? Like you get that whole thing going. So I'm like, okay, well, it ended up being stuffed pork chops and a 6-pack of beer, but that was great. In another novel that I was writing, I'm like, I didn't really know where the story was going. I really didn't know what more plot was going to happen. So they have a stag night, like a night before the wedding. So they have a stag night, and they have just different things from a pub, and they're all going, and they get sauced, and they're having a blast. And all of this stuff that comes out in 2 or 3 stories ahead that's not yet to be published. That's what I'm working on now. But it came out that when they were relaxed and they were happy and they were joyous and celebrating and just being a team, many story plots came out, like potential storylines came out. So that was kind of fun. But with Mazir, and I'm on the Zoom call with Melissa, and I'm on with Sarah, right? We were all 3 together doing a group coaching, and Melissa just asked me, which one would be easiest to write? Because you're definitely at a crossroads. And like, she's talking about pivoting. I just needed, and I was like, well, the homeschool book would be totally easy because I have so much material to just do. And in 2 weeks, y'all, not that that's the timeline, but it was so quick and easy to organize that material. It needed plenty of edits on the other side of it, but just to get it out of me was done. And it paved the way that a year later, Mazir was ready to be published. But
Right.
I don't think that it was true writer's block. It was more of a crossroads. Like, it just came to a fork in the road, and it's like, you got to make a decision. You can pick up with this when you bring it along. You can focus on him later. And I think that that's what we have to do sometimes, because we do have a lot of ideas in our brain. We are very creative people, but we just might need to put that creativity to different things. I will never pick fall pillows for my house, ever. but that could be something else that I do.
Well, and I love that example so much because you felt so blocked on Mazir, but you were 100% not blocked on the other book.
Not blocked.
But because you had decided you needed to make progress on Mazir, you were not making progress on either one until you had that freedom to go, oh, I'm not going to lose Mazir. I'm going to set him aside and he'll wait. And I'm going to get this other thing done. And what was amazing, and this is the second half of that story, friends, is she got the homeschool book done, and then Mazir got done like that. She went back and finished that story, and it was done and published and in the world in no time at all. And so my encouragement to you guys is creative inspiration lives in you because the Holy Spirit lives in you. And it just may be that he's trying to reroute you. You think you're blocked, and he's trying to reroute you. And he might also be trying to ask you to rest. And I know if y'all haven't listened to April's talk about Renaissance, sometimes you just need to rest also, that you just need to refill the well, or you're tired, or, it's just a moment. And I'm going to talk about this more on Thursday, but sometimes it's really just an invitation to take a minute and ask, okay, what do I need to learn about this moment? Why am I blocked? Where's the creative inspiration? What's life-giving in this season? And follow that, because if you will follow that, you're going to find that you really do have ideas. You may not have words, but you do have ideas, and those are worth chasing down.
Yeah, chasing down the words and just having a place that's safe to store those words, those ideas, those little glimpses of something you don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
it could just be that you just have a little composition notebook that you write stuff down on, or it can be notes in your phone, someplace
Yeah.
safe though, someplace safe that's backupable. Redundant
I love
backups
that.
are a real
That's a good
thing.
word.
Please, please redundant backups, because I've had 2 computers crash on me and there's a panic. There's just a panic in the universe. And so just,
Yeah.
give yourself some security there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with the pivoting and with the Holy Spirit. And sometimes it takes wiser counsel and an objective person to help guide you, because I get blinders on and I think that
Yes.
this is where I have to go to stay undistracted. But
Mhm.
really, the distractions are just opportunities to feed you more.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I agree with that. I'm meeting with a coach right now. And so my son, I homeschool my son. He takes classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. So Wednesdays is his longer day, 9 to 4. And I have been saying for months, that's my writing day. But let me tell you, I am not writing on Wednesdays. And she keeps saying, why aren't you writing on Wednesdays? Do you want to write on Wednesdays? What do you want to do? And I finally had a breakthrough about a week or two ago, because on Wednesday I was like, I don't want to write today. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I want to have lunch with a friend, and I want to go to Hobby Lobby, and I want to go do this, and I want to go do that. And I realized in a moment, I don't have writer's block. It's not that I don't want to write. It's that I don't want to write on Wednesdays, because when my son is not here, I also don't want to be here. I don't want to be home. I want to be out with friends, and I want to change his scenery, and I want activity, and I want to just fully engage in this freedom that I have on Wednesday. I think I want to write when my son's actually home and he's doing his schoolwork, and I'm going to write then. And so, again, it's not that I didn't have creative inspiration.
Sorry.
It's that I was trying to force myself to do something that wasn't working. And when I gave myself the permission to write at a different time, like last night, both of my guys were upstairs. One was watching a television show, one was gaming on his computer. I pulled out my tablet and I wrote, because nobody needed me and there was time to write. And I'm not going to go to Hobby Lobby at 9 o'clock at night. So that was a great time to write. And so it's not that you don't have creative inspiration. It's just, where is it? What time is going to work for you? What space do you need to pursue it in? Is it writing? Is it speaking? Is it painting? Is it knitting? Is it going on a walk? What is it and where is it? And chase that down, because it's less about the fact that you have whatever we call writer's block. It's that maybe you're trying to do something that doesn't work and you just need to change the way you're doing it.
There's such freedom in that, Melissa, because there's so many experts out there that tell you you're not a real writer if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. and writing at the same time every day.
Right.
And that real writers write at the same time every day. But hello, we have lives and we have families that we are taking care of, and we have so much going on. And it's just so
Yeah.
freeing to say, it's okay to not write on Wednesday and you can write on Thursday night, and that's okay. I don't know why that's so mind-blowing, but it's very freeing.
It is freeing, and I still do have to create structures for myself. So right now I've realized I do want and need to be writing. And this is to get to your question too, Kathy, that I do need to put some things in place to make sure that I am actually finishing what I start and that I'm doing the work. And right now, I really just need to build the habit of writing regularly again. And so and I'm going to fight it. I know I'm going to fight it. I'm going to be like a toddler some days, and I'm going to just be stupid about it. But my goal right now is I want to write 500 words a day till the end of the year. They don't have to be good words. I don't have to post them anywhere. They can be on anything and whatever. It doesn't matter, but just sit down and write the words every day, Melissa, because I know that if I will do that, it's going to also motivate me to do some of these other things, Kathy, like you're asking, that sometimes you do just need to finish the project. You don't feel inspired, but you started it and you need to finish it. And it's just, you do sometimes have to power through, and that's discipline, and that's good. And that's creative inspiration, might get you started, but it might not get you done. And you do have to exercise discipline and self-control to finish the things you start. Otherwise, we're going to be chasing butterflies all over the mountain, right? And as fun as that sounds, then no books would ever be published, and we wouldn't ever get anything finished. So yes, Kathy, I mean, I think you do have to, yes, like Rosemary said, you have to set deadlines, and sometimes you do just have to get the work done, because if that is a God-given inspired idea, and this is something that you're stewarding out into the world, let's finish it. Let's do the good hard work of completing what we've started, that God's given us to do, because that's also going to feel good, right? And everything we complete gives us motivation to start another project.
To start another project, right? So
because we know that we can do it.
That sometimes the fear, and our insecurities, and saying like, who are we to say these words? Who are we to get these words out into the world? I think that plays a lot in our battle sometimes, of not necessarily the words being blocked, but our completion. Sometimes because we want it to be good. We want it to be the best. We want it to inspire and encourage someone else. And sometimes we just get like paralyzed by that fear of finishing it, because like, if I finish this, oh, what am I going to do with it? And if I finish it, that means I really do have to start this other thing that I know is big and huge and hairy on my heart. Like, I know that there's sometimes like, I know that when the Lord says, I trusted you with a little bit, and now I'm going to trust you with a little more. And I'm going to trust you with a little more. And sometimes I'm like, but I don't think I want to be trusted with that yet.
Yeah. Can I not? Can I say no to that?
I'm ready. I don't think no, I have not been promoted yet. I'm not ready. That's not in my big box yet. I don't have those tools yet.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of that is, so creative inspiration, we all know this is not true. We know it. We feel it in our bones because we've experienced it. And yet we still have this ideal expectation that if I have this creative inspiration about a book that I'm going to write, or an article I'm going to write, it's just going to be really good because the idea is really good. And then we sit down to start writing it, and it's not really good. It's messy and it's bumpy, and we can't find the words, and it needs a million edits. And so then we go backwards and we question the beginning of that idea, and we go, was it a good idea? Did I misread the cues? And I think that's where we have to adjust our expectations, because we know that's not true. Like, think of one of your favorite books of all time. You probably wouldn't like it if you read the first draft of that book. You would not finish it, right? Like, so I was actually reading a fiction book this week that was just perfectly delightful. But in it, there's an author, and he has had a best-selling novel. His second novel tanked, but he has a 3-book contract, and he's trying to write this 3rd book, and he's terrified of both things. He's terrified that people have expectations of him, of it being a bestseller, and he's also terrified because he thinks people are going to expect it to flop, and he cannot make progress. And one of the other characters says, you need to go back and read the first draft of your best-selling novel. And he does, and he realizes, oh, number 1, I've grown as a writer. And number 2, that first draft was bad, but I got it to a place where it was a bestseller. And I think that's the piece of creative inspiration too, that if God, I don't have the verse in front of me, so I'm so sorry, I can't remember the reference, but we know that God is a God who completes things. He doesn't leave things undone. And the work that he's doing in you, he is going to complete. And so if God gives you an idea, if it's a God-given idea, and we have all sorts of ideas, some are God-given, some are just kind of our own little rabbit trails, but you can trust that if God has given you something, he is also going to give you the equipping and the strength and the perseverance and the wisdom that you need to see it all the way through. Is it going to feel good every step of the way? No. Are there going to be a million edits? Yes. Are there going to be some things, some moments in there where you feel like a failure and you don't feel creatively inspired? Yes, that is the expectation. That is the reality of being a writer. Does that mean that you're not creatively inspired? No, you are still creatively inspired. It is still a good idea. It's still worth seeing through. It's just going to be hard work.
And I think that's when we start praying really hard.
Yeah.
That's when I start praying really hard and asking other people to pray for me, to have that discernment and to bring people in my life that are going to help with whatever I'm in the middle of. Whether it needs to be a conversation with someone who's a little further down the line than me, maybe it's to watch some YouTube videos to get through a certain segment like I'm not really doing. Maybe it's to go back and reread what I've written before to say, am I repeating the same scenario again? Am I repeating, am I making it too tropey? Am I making it too, too much like something I've already written? And so sometimes I have to go back and go, what were those same words? I can't repeat those same words. And even though Kelda might repeat those same words 15 times in conversations, that's not something that my characters can necessarily do. Right. But yeah, I do think that there are all these layers, and that it does come down to, and I know we keep saying if, but I believe they're God-inspired ideas. Right. They may be ideas that we're just supposed to go through the process. It may not be ideas that are shared with the universe. Right. It might be for our own development and our own personal growth. And I think you're writing 500 words a day is for your own writing growth. Yep, it is. That's just for your writing growth. Some of it may come out some really awesome ideas that you expound on later.
I hope so. And it might all be crap.
And it might all be yuck. And you're just going to leave it in the book and close it up and put that on the shelf.
But I will have built the muscles, right?
You've built a muscle.
Built the muscle. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's valuable. And if you imagine a timeline of an idea, I think what we do also is we go, oh, I have creative inspiration, and now I'm going to work that idea out. And we forget that entire timeline of an idea is a collaboration with God. That there is the instigation of the idea, and there's that moment where you want to pitch it and burn all the words, and you do what Kelda says, and you go pray and you plead with God, is this even worth doing anymore? And he gives you that additional creative inspiration and that encouragement to keep going. And that just keeps happening all along the way. It is creative inspiration is not a moment in time where you are given, this magical thing that you need to write this book. And then there's no more creative inspiration. Our God is infinite. We are finite. We're going to run out of the ideas really quickly. But if we stay with him and pursuing him, he's going to continue to supply all that we need to see that word or the article or the book or the project, to see it all the way through. He's not going to abandon us by giving us an idea and then saying, good luck, honey, I hope it goes well. He's going to stay with us the whole way through.
So this time of year, I'm reading through the drudgery of the prophets, right? Not in my 1-year Bible. I'm not the fun, lively Abraham stories right. or the Moses and the burning bush. I'm just these poor people are not listening, but daily, God is faithful, right? I don't want to do this. So, okay, you can do this instead. I don't want to there's this constant back and forth with God while he's trying to say, warn these people, they're not going to listen to you, but warn them anyway, do the work anyway. And I just know that I'm just thinking how faithful was God for the 40 years in the desert? Every day he was creating something new to provide for his people every single day. And then, all the promises that he's made, he keeps. So if he's entrusted us with something, with that divine inspiration of something, it doesn't mean that it's going to change the whole universe, but it
Right.
might, first of all, change our hearts.
Yeah.
Might make us more disciplined. Surely, if we share those words, it will encourage, and it will, shared words only encourage. You know what I'm saying? Like in that capacity, if we're being faithful to what we believe God is being called.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm like going, yes, like all these stories are in the back of my brain, and I'm going, how he's going to see it to the end. So that one little spark of, hey, go do this. Hey, we're no different than those Old Testament guys. We are no different. Guys,
No.
collectively, men, women, all of them, guys,
Us.
generic term, the y'all of the Bible. And it's just, you know, I just think that, yeah, God, like, here's your little idea, but he sustained them through the whole thing.
He does. And I keep saying maybe on the ideas, because I know I have ideas sometimes that are not necessarily what God's giving me to do. I just have a really fast brain and I have an active brain. But that is part, and I'm going to talk about this on Thursday, but I think that's part of staying creatively inspired too, is this, what we're doing today, being in community and having people to bounce those ideas off, because those people are going to help us be discerning about which ideas are really worth pursuing and which ones maybe either it's not the right time for, or they really are just not a great idea. And maybe we just need to say, okay, so you had that idea. Let's put it aside, because this other idea is really great and we think you should pursue it. But I think that's part of creative inspiration, is that work that you put into the ideas of discerning, is this one worth pursuing? Is this one worth pursuing now? Or is this one worth, setting aside for a moment so that I can do this one? It's this wonderful invitation to collaborate with God that we tend to think it's this magical one moment if I've given an idea and I must move forward with it. But maybe it's you're given 10 ideas and now God says, which one, daughter? Which one do you want to pick up and run with? Go talk to your friends and have fun figuring that out. Like, I think that's an invitation that he gives us of find your people, and it's okay to let some ideas go, and it's okay to have three that you really love, but go enjoy pursuing that with your writing friends and talk about it with them and say, hey, which one should I run with right now? And I think that's the joy of this too, is that there really are some great ideas. I bet everybody here today has probably multiple ideas about some things, and you maybe haven't even told anybody what some of them are. And that's some of the invitation today too, is use your out loud voice and tell people what some of your ideas are, and be brave enough to hear maybe that one's not your next idea, because they might also be able to tell you that one that you're kind of doubtful about, that one's amazing. See what you can do with that, because there's so much encouragement in that too.
There really is. And I have multiple ideas. When I first wrote my first novel, I thought that was it. I thought there was no more. And I was like, okay, I wrote a novel. Let's move on with the universe. And then suddenly, like, something, I don't know. And maybe it was because I just let that little bit of a door open and said, okay, I trust you with this, God. Yes, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to follow. And now I feel like I am entrusted with each of these character stories in a very precious way.
Right.
And when you look at my queue of ideas, I don't know what's next. I honestly don't know what's next. I know what's finished. I know what needs work. I know what could be finished relatively quickly, but I don't know what's next necessarily. Right. Does that make sense? And if I start listening to those ideas, I call them voices. If I start listening to those characters' voices and I get into their story, then they're going to speak the loudest. They're going to overshadow every other thing that's just kind of hanging out there, in the limbo and waiting, but I do believe that I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, here's your salad bar, Kelda. What do you want to put on your plate next? And sometimes you can dabble with a few little tasters, but you can't put a whole lot of one thing on there and expect to have a whole lot of another thing, because it's not even the good paper plates at the salad bar. It's like the little flimsy things. Like, you have to be very, very conscientious about what you're putting on your plate.
Yeah,
as you're
that's right.
given so many things. And don't mind going to taste each one. Dabble. Especially if you're in a season of no deadline, or if you're in a season of just creative exercises,
Right.
And especially
And I
those
think
of you
that's where
who write weekly and monthly and put out newsletters and blogs and things that you're just constantly feeding your audience, then oh my gosh, go dabble with some really
yes.
different ideas, because you don't know what's going to be next in maybe a series of posts or a series of blogs that you're
And
going
you
to
don't
make.
want to burn out, right? Like when you're
No, you don't.
constantly putting things out. And
Right.
I'm in a season where I don't have a lot of deadlines and I have a lot of freedom. And I think I've struggled with that. I think Rosemary, maybe you were the one that said in the chat that it's good to have deadlines,
Mhm.
that actually helps us move forward. And that's part of my decision to do the 500 words a day is I just need a little bit of structure right now to help me move forward, because I don't have any looming deadlines. I had a bunch this fall. They've all cleared. And now I've got freedom, but that freedom, I would just go paint and take pictures and do nothing and write no words. And all of a sudden it'd be 6 months later and I have done nothing. And so I think for me, part of, I don't remember who said it. I'm going to look it up and hopefully have that for Thursday, or maybe one of y'all know, but multiple people have said it multiple ways. But basically, if you will show up to the work, the inspiration will come. And so I know I'm in a season where I need to just show up to the work and I need to write 500 words a day because I know the ideas will come. And there was Sarah Westfall on Instagram is in November. She does this liturgy of the little things where you just take a picture of the little things in your life and appreciate them and love them. And that resonated so much with me. I haven't done it in the past, but I'm doing it this month because for me, that cultivates that creative inspiration when I notice the beauty of my candle burning or my son sitting with the dog and snuggling. And we tend to think that, okay, well, that's not writing. Okay, you're right. I'm not writing words when I do that. But what I am doing is stimulating my brain and I'm stimulating my heart. And when I do go back to writing the words, there's going to be more in there to pull from because I have been paying attention to the world around me, and I'm going to have more, images and analogies and stories to weave into my writing because I've been paying attention to my life. And I think that's a big piece of creative inspiration too, is recognizing that you are so much more than a writer. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a friend, you're a daughter, you work in an office, you knit, you paint, you love nature. Maybe you're a mathematician and numbers get you excited. But whatever you are so much more than a writer. And so when we lean into those things too, it informs our writing and it helps us be a better writer and it helps us come up with these ideas that we're using in our writing that maybe we wouldn't have had if we hadn't been paying attention to everything else.
I think that's a point that my husband quite eloquently said the first time I really shared words with him was like, oh my gosh, you're a writer. But he just thought that because I didn't respond on my feet or, had the words like right at the ready that I was really even paying attention. But he's like, you watch everything. And I am an observer. Like I watch everything. And I know that that's part of the reason that I come up with some of the ideas that I've had in the past that were powerful ideas, strong ideas that had kind of their own momentum and their own force, and that, yes, I had to be obedient and showing up to do the work, but wow, just wow at the end of it,
Yeah.
and it didn't mean that it was perfect when it got on the paper, if it were words, and it didn't mean that it was, this great thing. It still needed work and it still needed edits. Edits are
Always.
hard. Edits are hard, especially when someone else tells you what has to be changed.
Yes.
I don't want to. No.
Yeah.
But you're not the boss of me. But they are, and they know it's only going to make it better. And that's where we are humbled in that process as well. And I think what you said earlier too about having other people come into the conversation with us because maybe we haven't said it with our out loud voices. And to trust that process, because I love the discernment of my friends and I am so thankful to have them in my life, because otherwise you don't even know where Kelda would be. Like it would just be, it would be scary most of the time, of where that would be.
Yeah.
And I love that we can trust especially other creatives, other people that get us, they get the way things happen. And when they kind of, hold us accountable, or they, question us in a different tone and in a different way than someone that
Right.
we might live with.
Yeah.
And we might receive it differently.
And even the edit. So I mean, I don't love edits either. And that can feel very I don't know, precise and not creative to edit. But I do believe that we learn from editing, right? When someone else edits our work, it causes us to look at our work differently. How could I say that differently? And that engages a different part of our creative inspiration where we have to go, I've been writing one way. What if I try writing a different way? What if I give it this, maybe I write very direct. What if I try writing a little bit more story like, or what if I, change my sentence structures? And there is something to learning from the process. And y'all, I hope y'all can follow me on this analogy, but I, when I am faithfully praying over multiple things, I am much more aware of God at work in my life because I'm looking for answers, right? You become more aware of how God is at work in your life. And I tend to think with writing, it's the same thing. Let's look for creative inspiration through the whole process. Let's look for that moment when our friend says, I'm not sure that works in that piece, and say, okay, what do I need to learn from that? How could I creatively work through that problem? Or in the editing process, I think Christina said that's where the magic happens. In the editing process, there is creative inspiration in the editing process too, if we're looking for it. And so part of creative inspiration is just having a mindset of saying, what can I learn from this? What ideas are present here? And it's okay if there aren't any. Like, we don't have to be afraid of not having ideas. Because as we've already said, God has infinite ideas. And if we stay connected to him and we're asking him, they're going to come back. And it's okay if we give our brain and our heart a rest. We don't have to be afraid of writer's block. Kelda and I were talking ahead of time. We don't actually believe writer's block is a thing. I believe writer's block really is this term we use to describe all the symptoms of these other problems that we have. And I don't know if y'all watched my other teaching. I think it was back in August, but I put writer's block into 5 categories, but it's really just 5 categories of problems that we have as writers and different ways that we encounter struggles. But I think the same thing is true with creative inspiration. It's there. It's always there. It's just, where is it showing up? How do we find it? How do we pursue it? And what is God trying to teach us through it? So, I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all what I'm going to teach on Thursday. So we're going to look at an acronym. So we can look at the SON, S-O-N. So S is staying rooted spiritually. O is operating in community. And N is nurturing creativity. And for each one of those, I'm going to go through scriptures about those and just very practical things we can do to look for and cultivate that creative inspiration on a regular basis, even when it's not showing up in our words. I guarantee it's showing up somewhere else.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait. And be sure to check on Thursday your time on your writer's block, because I know we're in different time zones, and we might say, oh, it's going to be at this time, but then we don't hear Central, or we don't hear Eastern or Pacific or something like that. So just be sure that you are checking your writer's block, because it should be, when you registered, it should tell you exactly your time zone. So just to make sure that it's there.
I'm going to say it's the same time today, but it's on Thursday. So just, check your writer's block.
That's perfect.
I believe that is
today.
12 o'clock Central for me, which would be 1 p.m. Eastern for other people. So, but double check the writer's block. So,
right.
Does anybody have questions or thoughts about this, about creative inspiration? Or I want to make sure we get that.
Well, first of all, hey, ladies, I've been out of commission, so I'm so happy to see you. All my friends.
Me too.
All my friends, to see your smiling faces. Yay. So I had surgery 3 weeks ago, so I'm back. I'm not finally at my desk this week, and let me tell you, okay, this has been like a breath of fresh air to be like, oh, I get to log in, and oh, they're gonna see me eat. So hi, that's all I really have to say. But hi, everybody. Actually, I couldn't even find my notebook, but I took notes on the back of an envelope because that's just where my brain is right today. Melissa, you talking about that was not the message you wanted to write, about pivoting and shoehorning yourself into something that wasn't necessarily what you needed to write in this season. Yes, like, yes, girl, yes. And then Helda starts talking about burnout of dabbling with paper plates, and you got my mind spinning with, like, because I use this analogy all the time about I have too many plates spinning. Like, I use that analogy all the time. And Kelda, as soon as you said that, I was like, you can't spin paper plates. And I'm like, oh, and see, here we are talking about inspiration. And I'm like, I have an article due, in 8 days. No clue what I was going to write about. You cannot spin paper plates. So somehow that is going to be part of it. So
Yes.
again, just being part of community and just being with people, and just, anyway, you just never know. You just never know. So I still got to flush this out because I just got one little phrase. But anyway, yeah.
I love that though. I love how that works, because that's so often how it is, right? It's this tiny little thing that captures our attention and sparks the imagination, and we begin to go, oh, wait, what could I do with that? And it becomes this wonderful thing that we get to tease out and play with. And who knows where you're going to land with that, but I can't wait. So circle back and let us know if you end up using that, and what glorious nuggets of truth come from you can't spin paper plates.
You can't spin paper
That's
plates.
fantastic.
You cannot at all.
So
no,
I just might have to move into a paper plate season. Like, because we're in paper plate season, technically, with it being Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yes. I don't do paper plates at my house. I'm just like, that's ingrained, that my mother taught me. It's just a thing. Don't judge. It's just no paper plates. Just because I want to cut my meat and I don't want it to go through the paper or the styrofoam or something. But yeah, it's like paper plate season, but you can't spin paper plate. I don't know. You're probably laughing at me like, what in the world is she going on? Like,
no, I love it. And another thing too, is that with the spinning plates, it takes such a skill and a balance, and we get one and we get two, and whether doing the juggling or doing the things. And I'm not a juggler, but I can imagine myself wanting to spin a plate. Like that just seems like fun to me. Right. But you don't even like spin the good china. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you only spin like the plates you can afford to really like let crash. Right. But yeah, you just had surgery. Anytime that there is any time where Kelda goes down, my father and my father's no longer with us, but my father and my husband will bring home the paper plates tube from the Costco or the Sam's. Like they are the biggest container, because they know that nothing's going to be washed. So that becomes paper plate season. You just had surgery 3 weeks ago. It would still be paper plate season in my house if I had just had surgery, because nobody's going to be doing the dishes. Like that would just go by the wayside. That would just be, it would be
I
totally
personally have no problem with paper plates. I like them. I use them at certain times, but
I love the paper boats. If you get the paper boats, y'all do those?
Yeah. Yep. Well, we have a fire pit, and so you can burn them. You can burn them when you're done. But I had another thought that I was gonna throw out, and now I've lost it. Let's see if it comes back. Oh no, I lost it. It's gonna come back.
I was just gonna. Can I throw in something too about what you were saying, Kelda, about I think it was you, Kelda, about the salad bar, and you can only fit so much on a paper plate. Yeah. And I think I'm one of those people that's got the paper plate so overloaded that like the bottom is sagging, because I saw all the stuff on the buffet and I wanted all of it.
And it looked all wonderful. And it looked all wonderful. And you can taste a little bit of everything. You could take a little taste of everything. But if you go, oh, I really love that, then you just can say, that's my meal for the day. And I know that is a lesson that I have learned in my mothering, that because everything looks wonderful and pretty and shiny to me and very distracting, and it all looks delicious. And I literally cannot do that. So, you know, before we got on, Melissa was saying, you know, there are
Yeah.
seasons where she's saying no to some things. Like she's in a season of saying no to things, but she's definitely saying yes to certain things that are a priority to her right now. And the community and the face-to-face and the things that are really nurturing right now are very, very important to her. And so, you know, I think that we're facing our own salad bars every single day. And what are we going to put on our plate? And before
Well,
we
and I think
spin it
that's-
or we don't spin it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's two
April.
different forms, I think, of struggle, right? Is we can have too much, like too many options. And so then it feels noisy in our head and we don't know which voices to listen to and which ideas. And that's one kind of problem. And then I've been in seasons where there's nothing on the plate. I want something on the plate, but there is nothing to put on the plate. You know, I have some food sensitivities, and depending on where you go, like you show up and there's like this buffet of wonderful things spread out before you, and you can't choose any of them because they're going to feel bad for you. And so I did think of what I was going to share. So it was interesting for me this summer. I've never been like a lay out and get a tan person. Clearly, I'm very fair skinned, but I found this summer that that was the place for my ideas to show up, is laying in the pool. I would lay in the pool and stare at the sky and watch the clouds. And it was amazing. I could be so stressed out and I could have a million things in my head. And just laying there on the water is like everything settled and it got really quiet. And the first 15 minutes, there would not really be anything. It was like my mind was this blank slate of nothingness. And then I would flip over and I would kind of watch the sun playing on the water and the shadows on the bottom of the pool. And it was like somebody had ignited a fire in my brain and there would be a million ideas. And so I think that's one of the things too that we have to do is we have to figure out how to turn off the noise, turn off the voices, turn off the Instagram, turn off the other writers and what they're doing. We have to turn off all the ideas we think we need to be working on. And we need to get quiet. It's like, I love mountains and mountain streams, you know, and if you walk across it, the sediment all gets stirred up and the water's not clear anymore. That's our brains all the time. And you've got to get quiet enough to let that sediment settle back to the bottom where you can see through the water again and you can get clear on which ideas are worthy and which ideas it's time to pursue. And we cannot do that if we're always on our phones. We cannot do that if we're always running our schedules to the max. We can't do that if we're always watching TV, or even I've been in a season where I'm reading books. I love books, but some of the reading of the books that I've been doing has been running away from decisions I need to make because it's easier to read a book than think about the decision I need to make. And so we have got to create space to allow the creative inspiration to come. How can we hear from God if there is no quiet? How can we know what he's saying if we are not allowing space for that to happen? So,
yeah, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Well, we're kind of running down on our time, and I love that. I do. How can we hear from God if we really don't make that clear that area? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've cleared our area for today to come and be here together. And hopefully everyone is able to come back on Thursday to hear more from you, Melissa, because it's always,
I can't wait.
always
I'm
wonderful.
going to teach, but I'm going to tell y'all, I'm also going to leave space at the end of the teaching on Thursday. I really want to workshop ideas. So if you show up on Thursday, I'm going to teach, but I'm planning to kind of teach quickly because I really want us to talk about this more and what this looks like practically for you. What's it going to look like for you to pursue, find, cultivate this creative inspiration? So just put a bookmark there that I'm going to teach, but I also want us to workshop. So if you show up, let's make time for that. So thank y'all for coming today. I love seeing your faces. It's like the
Are there
highlight of
any
my
other
day.
comments or anything quick before we get off?
I can't wait for Thursday.
I know for sure. And I really want to know what you're crocheting now. You still have your chicken behind you.
What am I crocheting right now? Right now, I can show you. Do you want me to show you like real quick what I'm making?
Yes,
Because it's
yes.
not crochet right now.
I have one of her chickens. See her little chicken up there?
I know,
I
and
don't,
so is
I
Melissa.
don't crochet, but April's got hers.
I was
I was
noticing.
confused there for a minute because I was looking behind Kelda's head and I'm like, I don't see a chicken.
Oh, yeah,
Hers
down in
is,
the far
hers
little
is
corner.
kind of hiding. Yeah, it's
Okay,
there.
there's some bunnies back here too from Easter. It's my Easter bunny. See, they're just all here.
Oh,
Okay.
cute.
So yeah, these were so fun. I made them for decorations for my son's wedding, for the rehearsal dinner because it was Easter weekend. It's a thing. Anyway, so I'm making these reversible octopus things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that have different colors. So I don't have one handy, but
Oh,
are they sweet? It's just
I
a little
love
felty
it.
felt. But
okay, I'm
they're-
totally stealing that idea. You have to, okay. I love it. I need to
That's
take a
so
picture
cute.
of that.
I will send you I'll just send you the PDF of it that I downloaded, and then you can cut out the pattern yourself. So I cut out all the little pieces of felt, like they're all different colors felt, and you just layer them on.
Oh,
I love it. This is my life.
Yeah.
So
you just hand stitched it or did you sew
just
it?
hand stitch it. I just sit and listen to a
That is
book or
adorable.
watch television with my husband, and I hand
So
stitch.
cool.
That's
That
just
is
cute.
adorable.
And Melissa, we've been enjoying your art. I show it to my girls, especially my art inspired daughter. I have a dance inspired daughter and an art inspired daughter.
I love it.
And we were looking at the one where you were blowing through the straw and they just loved it. She was just like, that's so cool. How does she do that? And I'm thinking, yeah, just don't make a mess in the house.
Big drop cloth is what I'm going to say. I was doing that in our garage. So that was my son doing that. But pour paint is my new love right now. I'm having so much fun with pour paint. That's what we were doing was pour paint, but his didn't have enough viscosity. Like it wasn't moving as much as it should have. So I was like, here, use a straw and just see what you can make happen. It turned out gorgeous. I ended up framing it and putting it in my bathroom. It was so beautiful. But yes, I do it outside with a very large drop cloth now and a table that I don't care getting paint on because it is messy. And
Yeah,
now
I
I
was gonna
started
say,
using a
some
hair dryer
activities
for
are
it.
for
And
outside. Some
Yeah.
some activities and creativity must be outside in nature because it's just
Yeah.
too messy.
Yes,
Too
it
messy or too the fumes. They're fumes.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I just bought
Well,
myself,
I'm looking forward to Thursday also. I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna say, I just bought myself a used embroidery machine.
Oh.
So it's been a real big distraction and a learning curve, but
Yeah, my husband asked me a few years ago if I wanted to do that. And he's like, do you want it? And I'm like, no, because you would turn it into a business and you would make me like, I would be a factory worker then. Like, I just know what I would become.
I'm in
And,
the season of baby showers. I'm making so many baby blankets right now.
yes,
So I'm like,
exactly.
well,
But I was
let's
like,
give it a shot.
I was like, no, I really want to be a writer. I really want to focus on that. I'll pay someone to do my embroidery. So that's the deal we came up with. But we had a friend who was selling theirs.
It is good to have healthy boundaries, Kelda.
I had to have I want to be a writer. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. So
We're
as I
such
run through the
creative
house.
women. We have to
Don't have to
set
make it.
boundaries around it.
Yes, we do.
It
I
doesn't
know.
become fun when you end up having to always do it.
That's
The fun
right.
is
Thank
being able
you.
to
Thank
go in.
you. And as I've said before, if it's not fun, please don't invite me.
Yeah.
Or if you don't let me make it fun, please don't invite me because I don't want to come.
As
I
our
will
friend Coach
respectfully
April
decline.
says, if it's not a heck yeah, it's a heck no.
Right.
Yep. I'm hoping I'm having some good influence on you people. Just setting good boundaries. No. All right. So
Love
we
it.
will look for everyone on Thursday. I have to go teach some algebra 2. So this is what I do for fun. Actually, I do that for money. It's still fun, but that's what I do for money. So I can afford to be a writer. No.
You know what, Kelda, out of all of us, you will probably not have dementia because you are still like doing all these high function mathematical equations. Yes. Past
Yeah.
the age of 40.
You're both beautifully creative with your words and you have a math brain. You're like the perfect woman.
I don't have a math brain. That's the thing. I'm like, no, people. This is why I teach math is because it doesn't come naturally. I don't teach writing to all my students because I can't help them because it just is something that I do. Does that make sense? Like I can make a project with you, but you've got to really kind of have your own motivation. But the math part is definitely like I can hold your hand. We can get jelly beans out. We can do all the magical things. We can cry sometimes. We can talk about horses sometimes. We can do lots of things just to get through a math problem, and it's okay. And I'm with them. And you don't tutor kids who are great in math. You know what I mean?
That is fair. That is
And
fair.
you don't typically get students who are like, I love math. It's the greatest thing ever. You don't get those kids. You get the kids who need jelly beans and carrots and whatever, and just love, and just to help build their confidence that they know how to multiply something.
I would take math from you, Kelda.
You would. All of you would love math with me. You love it.
I feel,
'Cause
I
would
feel
make
like
it so
saying, can you
fun.
teach my daughter? We're doing algebra 1. I
love algebra 1. Algebra 1 is, I'm so good at it. I'm so good at it. Like when I just see like I kind of want to take the ACT again just to see. Is that horrible? Like it's just sick and demented. Like I want to go sit for the math portion of the ACT again to see if I make
And
more
this
than
is
like
the
a
section
21.
of the writer's block where Kelda has lost her mind.
Yes.
Sorry, we're
If
getting
you
off.
want to prove that you're smarter than the rest of us, then go take your
Fine.
ACT. The rest of us will be
Cheering you on.
putting brownies on our paper plate. Okay, that's what the rest of us are going to be doing.
Yes,
Really
yes,
good.
amen.
All right,
Okay, y'all,
ladies.
we gotta lock this thing down. But I'm glad y'all heard space. You made it through the whole session.
You did. I hope you feel better, babe. I hope you feel better.
You too. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. Thanks for
All
Yes.
right.
giving me
Thanks, guys.
company on my
I'll see y'all on Thursday. I hope.
See you on
So,
Thursday. Thank
Bye.
y'all.
guys.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Wonderful.